Eric Chilton with Lauren Coleman, Chad Silber, and Jalen Gilkey.
How are you doing today? We are waiting on President Biden to address the nation as conflict continues brewing in Kabul, Afghanistan.
Yeah, we'll make sure to let you listen live when he does start speaking. Until then, we are tracking developments here at home from the first weekend of Guilford County's new mask mandate. We knew the county's focus over the weekend was educating people about these new rules.
WFMY News 2's Jenna Kurzina joins us live after speaking with several businesses about how this weekend went. Jenna, what'd they tell you?
Lauren, from bars to hair salons, the businesses I spoke with say they're also trying to adjust, but overall want to not only keep customers safe, but also their staff. Now, earlier when I did speak to some of those businesses, they said some of the most difficult challenge is trying to keep up with all the changes the pandemic continues to bring. For the owner of the Speakeasy Tavern, Wesley Camping, he says he was a little worried this weekend that there would be pushback from customers, but overall he says there were no issues.
You're going to have certain people that are going to do it just because they are good regulars of ours and they do know us and they respect us and that side of it. Then there's the other people that just are absolutely adamantly against it. And I haven't run into a lot of those so far, but at some point I think we will. And that becomes a difficult position for us to, tell a customer they can't be in here. And that's a hard one to go.
Camping says he does have masks available at his business for customers who come in without one. He said overall this weekend, a lot of people didn't even know the mandate was back in effect here in Guilford County. Now, it doesn't matter where you're at in the county, whether you're at a bar or a hair salon, a gym, you need to have one in all places of business.
All right, we are staying on top of breaking news. President Biden is addressing the nation as conflict continues brewing in Kabul, Afghanistan. Let's go ahead and listen in there.
Including the rapid collapse we're seeing now. I'll speak more in a moment about the specific steps we're taking, but I want to remind everyone how we got here and what America's interests are in Afghanistan. We went to Afghanistan almost 20 years ago with clear goals. Get those who attacked us on September 11, 2001, and make sure al-Qaeda could not use Afghanistan as a base from which to attack us again. We did that. We severely degraded al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. We never gave up the hunt for Osama bin Laden, and we got him. That was a decade ago. Our mission in Afghanistan was never supposed to have been nation building. It was never supposed to be creating a unified, centralized democracy. Our only vital national interest in Afghanistan remains today what it has always been: preventing a terrorist attack on America's homeland. I've argued for many years that our mission should be narrowly focused on counterterrorism, not counterinsurgency or nation building. That's why I opposed the surge when it was proposed in 2009 when I was vice president. And that's why, as president, I'm adamant that we focus on the threats we face today in 2021, not yesterday's threats. Today, the terrorist threat has metastasized well beyond Afghanistan. Al-Shabaab in Somalia, al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, al-Nusra in Syria, ISIS attempting to create a caliphate in Syria and Iraq, and establishing affiliates in multiple countries in Africa and Asia. These threats warrant our attention and our resources. We conduct effective counterterrorism missions against terrorist groups in multiple countries where we don't have permanent military presence. If necessary, we'll do the same in Afghanistan. We've developed counterterrorism over-the-horizon capability that will allow us to keep our eyes firmly fixed on the direct threats to the United States in the region and act quickly and decisively if needed. When I came into office, I inherited a deal that President Trump negotiated with the Taliban. Under his agreement, U.S. forces would be out of Afghanistan by May 1, 2021, just a little over 3 months after I took office. U.S. forces had already drawn down during the Trump administration from roughly 15,500 American forces to 2,500 troops in country. And the Taliban was at its strongest militarily since 2001. The choice I had to make as your president was either to follow through on that agreement or be prepared to go back to fighting the Taliban in the middle of the spring fighting season. There would have been no ceasefire after May 1. There was no agreement protecting our forces after May 1. There was no status quo of stability without American casualties after May 1. There was only the cold reality of either following through on the agreement to withdraw our forces or escalating the conflict and sending thousands more American troops back into combat in Afghanistan, lurching into the third decade of conflict. I stand squarely behind my decision. After 20 years, I've learned the hard way that there was never a good time to withdraw U.S. forces. That's why we're still there. We were clear-eyed about the risks. We planned for every contingency, but I always promised the American people that I would be straight with you. The truth is, this did unfold more quickly than we had anticipated. So what's happened? Afghanistan political leaders gave up and fled the country. The Afghan military collapsed, sometime without trying to fight. If anything, the developments of the past week reinforced that ending U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision. American troops cannot and should not be fighting in a war and dying in a war that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves. We spent over $1 trillion. We trained and equipped an Afghan military force with some 300,000 strong, incredibly well equipped, a force larger in size than the militaries of many of our NATO allies. We gave them every tool they could need. We paid their salaries, provided for the maintenance of their Air Force, something the Taliban doesn't have. Taliban does not have an Air Force. We provided close air support. We gave them every chance to determine their own future. We could not provide them was the will to fight for that future. There's some very brave and capable Afghan special forces units and soldiers. But if Afghanistan is unable to mount any real resistance to the Taliban now, there is no chance that 1 year, 1 more year, 5 more years, or 20 more years of U.S. military boots on the ground would have made any difference. Here's what I believe to my core. It is wrong to order American troops to step up when Afghanistan's own armed forces would not. The political leaders of Afghanistan were unable to come together for the good of their people, unable to negotiate for the future of their country when the chips were down. They would never have done so while U.S. troops remained in Afghanistan, bearing the brunt of the fighting for them. And our true strategic competitors, China and Russia, would love nothing more than the United States to continue to funnel billions of dollars in resources and attention into stabilizing Afghanistan indefinitely. When I hosted President Ghani and Chairman Abdullah at the White House in June, and again when I spoke by phone to Ghani in July, we had very frank conversations. We talked about how Afghanistan should prepare to fight their civil wars after the U.S. military departed, to clean up the corruption in government so the government could function for the Afghan people. We talked extensively about the need for Afghan leaders to unite politically. They failed to do any of that. I also urged them to engage in diplomacy, to seek a political settlement with the Taliban. This advice was flatly refused. Mr. Ghani insisted that the Afghan forces would fight. but obviously he was wrong. So I'm left again to ask of those who argue that we should stay, how many more generations of America's daughters and sons would you have me send to fight Afghanistan's civil war when Afghan troops will not? How many more lives, American lives, is it worth? How many endless rows of headstones at Arlington National Cemetery? I'm clear on my answer. I will not repeat the mistakes we've made in the past. Mistake of staying and fighting indefinitely in a conflict that is not in the national interest of the United States, of doubling down on a civil war in a foreign country, of attempting to remake a country through the endless military deployments of U.S. forces. Those are the mistakes we cannot continue to repeat because we have significant vital interest in the world that we cannot afford to ignore. I also want to acknowledge how painful this is to so many of us. The scenes we're seeing in Afghanistan, they're gut-wrenching, particularly for our veterans, our diplomats, humanitarian workers, for anyone who has spent time on the ground working to support the Afghan people, for those who have lost loved ones in Afghanistan, and for Americans who have fought and served in the country, serve our country in Afghanistan. This is deeply, deeply personal. It is for me as well. I've worked on these issues as long as anyone. I've been throughout Afghanistan during this war, while the war was going on, from Kabul to Kandahar to the Kunar Valley. I've traveled there on 4 different occasions. I met with the people. I've spoken to the leaders. I spent time with our troops, and I came to understand firsthand what was and was not possible in Afghanistan. So now we're focused on what is possible. We will continue to support the Afghan people. We will lead with our diplomacy, our international influence, and our humanitarian aid. We'll continue to push for regional diplomacy and engagement to prevent violence and instability. We'll continue to speak out for the basic rights of the Afghan people, of women and girls, just as we speak out all over the world. I've been clear, the human rights must be the center of our foreign policy, not the periphery. But the way to do it is not through endless military deployments. It's with our diplomacy, our economic tools, and rallying the world to join us. Now, let me lay out the current mission in Afghanistan. I was asked to authorize, and I did, 6,000 U.S. troops to deploy to Afghanistan for the purpose of assisting in the departure of U.S. and allied civilian personnel from Afghanistan, and to evacuate our Afghan allies and vulnerable Afghans to safety outside of Afghanistan. Our troops are working to secure the airfield and to ensure continued operation of both the civilian and military flights. We're taking over air traffic control. We have safely shut down our embassy and transferred our diplomats. Our diplomatic presence is now consolidated at the airport as well. Over the coming days, we intend to transport out thousands of American citizens who have been living and working in Afghanistan. We'll also continue to support the safe departure of civilian personnel, the civilian personnel of our allies who are still serving in Afghanistan. Operation Allies Refugee, which I announced back in July, has already moved 2,000 Afghans who are eligible for special immigration visas and their families to the United States. In the coming days, the U.S. military will provide assistance to move more SIV-eligible Afghans and their families out of Afghanistan. We're also expanding refugee access to cover other vulnerable Afghans who worked for our embassy, U.S. non-governmental agencies, or U.S. non-governmental organizations, and Afghans who otherwise are at great risk in U.S. news agencies. I know there are concerns about why we did not begin evacuating Afghan civilians sooner. Part of the answer is some of the Afghans did not want to leave earlier, still hopeful for their country. And part of it because the Afghan government and its supporters discouraged us from organizing a mass exodus to avoid triggering, as they said, a crisis of confidence. American troops are performing this mission as professionally and as effectively as they always do, but it is not without risks. As we carry out this departure, we have made it clear to the Taliban, if they attack our personnel or disrupt our operation, the U.S. presence will be swift and the response will be swift and forceful. We will defend our people with devastating force if necessary. Our current military mission will be short in time, limited in scope, and focused in its objectives. Get our people and our allies to safety as quickly as possible. And once we have completed this mission, we will conclude our military withdrawal. We will end America's longest war after 20 long years of bloodshed. The events we're seeing now are sadly proof that no amount of military force would ever deliver a stable, united, secure Afghanistan, as known in history as the graveyard of empires. What's happening now could just as easily happen 5 years ago or 15 years in the future. We have to be honest. Our mission in Afghanistan is taking many missteps, made many missteps over the past 2 decades. I'm now the 4th American president to preside over war in Afghanistan, 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. I will not pass this responsibility on to a 5th president. I will not mislead the American people by claiming that just a little more time in Afghanistan will make all the difference. Nor will I shrink from my share of responsibility for where we are today and how we must move forward from here. I am President of the United States of America, and the buck stops with me. I'm deeply saddened by the facts we now face, but I do not regret my decision to end America's warfighting in Afghanistan and maintain a laser focus on our counterterrorism missions there and other parts of the world. Our mission to degrade the terrorist threat of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and kill Osama bin Laden was a success. Our decades-long effort to overcome centuries of history and permanently change and remake Afghanistan was not, and I wrote and believed it never could be. I cannot and will not ask our troops to fight on endlessly in another country's civil war, taking casualties, suffering life-shattering injuries, leaving families broken by grief and loss. This is not in our national security interest. It is not what the American people want. It is not what our troops, who have sacrificed so much over the past 2 decades, deserve. I made a commitment to the American people when I ran for president that I would bring America's military involvement in Afghanistan to an end. While it's been hard and messy, and yes, far from perfect, I've honored that commitment. More importantly, I made a commitment to the brave men and women who serve this nation that I wasn't going to ask them to continue to risk their lives in a military action that should have ended long ago. Our leaders did that in Vietnam when I got here as a young man. I will not do it in Afghanistan. I know my decision will be criticized, but I would rather take all that criticism than pass this decision on to another president of the United States, yet another one, a 5th one, because it's the right one, it's the right decision for our people, the right one for our brave service members who risk their lives serving our nation, and it's the right one for America. Thank you. May God protect our troops, our diplomats, and all brave Americans serving in harm's way.
So you've been listening to President Biden address the nation in regard to the conflict in Afghanistan. He says that he stands behind his decision to withdraw troops, and he asked a question, how many American lives is it worth? He says that the answer is not endless deployments, and he says we've given Afghanistan every tool that they need and that Afghanistan should seek diplomacy. So again, President Biden standing behind his decision to withdraw troops in Afghanistan. This is a story that we will stay on top of both on air and online. So parents and students, they are still frustrated with a popular student housing apartment complex in Greensboro. After lingering issues during move-in time, students from local universities, they were set to move into the Block 43 apartments this weekend, but many of the units, they still aren't livable. WFNY News 2's Jalen Gilkey spoke with two tenants who are not happy and still don't have any answers.
Yeah, not many answers as of right now, but from broken appliances and unsanitary bathrooms to waiting multiple hours just to get a key, students told us they've dealt with all of this. Students moving into the Block 43 apartments are outraged at the things that they've dealt with these past few days.
We walk upstairs, the first thing we see is mold on the ceilings. Smelled really bad, the AC wasn't working, so it was extremely hot in there. Everyone's leftover stuff was in there. There was hair in the bathroom. There was a suitcase, and when the moving people came and were throwing out trash, they actually opened it up and we found out that there was urine everywhere.
Megan Huddleston is from Fayetteville, North Carolina, and is a rising senior at UNCG. She, like many others, couldn't believe the condition of her apartment on move-in day at the Block 43 student apartments.
Literally, my classes start tomorrow. I have in-person classes tomorrow. I stayed in a hotel last night with one of my other roommates that was living upstairs as well. We already got a hotel for tonight. I went there right when they opened this morning. They did have a carpet cleaning coming in whenever I got there, but the AC is still not fixed and there's still mold on our ceiling, so obviously I can't live there.
Christopher Cheek, a senior biomedical engineering student at North Carolina A&T, is also dealing with similar issues.
Internet and cable ain't working right now. The microwave, I can tell that they just glued the door handle back on there, all that type of stuff. And like I said, I don't have a refrigerator, and it's been 2 days now, and still ain't got a refrigerator. I just came back this morning.
Although Christopher is quite upset, he knows there are some that have it worse than he does.
I just really feel bad for the freshmen or whatever that's moving over here, because it's one thing to be an upperclassman, and be able to handle stuff a little bit better on your own. But I feel bad for the parents that's coming to drop their kids off as freshmen, and this their first experience.
And we did just receive a statement from Varsity Campus Property Management CEO. This statement let us know that there is additional cleaning crews on grounds right now. It is estimated most residents will be in their units by Tuesday evening. A small number of units will not be ready until Thursday, and for those residents, Varsity Campus Properties will be providing hotels and moving assistance. 45 will be right back.
Yeah, I know a lot of us are tired of the showers moving through. We got to deal with this for a little bit longer, folks. In fact, it may go, we think, into the night tonight. You see the showers now starting to pick up, especially in the southern Piedmont. Some thunderstorms embedded in that as well, so don't be surprised if you're in, say, Randolph, maybe southern Davidson County down to Montgomery County and more, you will see those showers. Yes, it is loosely associated with Fred here, and this will actually cause us to be rather unsettled when it comes to rain for the next several days. Let's get a close look at this. The last advisory coming out with 29.7 degrees north latitude, 85.4 degrees west. Basically, that's 25 miles west of Apalachicola, Florida. It's moving in the Panhandle into Panama City in that area now. It will move forward as a low pressure, which basically it's just a rain event, but there is a decent amount of rain with this. Look at Tuesday at 8 p.m. It's moving by our western tip of our state and through eastern parts of Tennessee, and by Wednesday morning it lifts north toward West Virginia, we actually think. The things we need to watch out for, what's left of this will bring heavy rains for us. This is Tuesday into Wednesday, but we think Wednesday things will start to dry out. We'll probably see 1 to 2 inches of rain possible across the Triad, but 2 to 4 in isolated areas of more in the foothills and mountain communities. There is a low tornado risk for tomorrow afternoon. We're going to keep you posted on that. Otherwise, the flood threat really is the highest in the mountains, as you can see here from Mount Airy down to west of Wilkesboro. That's a 4 to 6 inch total of rain, then 2 to 4 in the foothills, 1 to 2 mostly across the Triad. We'll have our 7-day forecast for you coming up in just a bit.
Are you using your words to empower your life or destroy it? Today on U Day, Coach Lamont shares the power of one word and how using that word correctly can change the trajectory of your life.
I will never forget how an old high school teacher told me that she expected to hear of me living in a park one day. I remember how those words hit my spirit and left a wound on my soul. Though I tried not to believe it, I found myself returning to those words over time, thinking to myself, what if she was right? You can imagine in 2013 when my family and I became homeless, I felt her words to be correct. It was as if those words became so loud in my heart that my own voice was a whisper. I made room for those words, which I should have never done. My friend, people say things at times, never thinking about the effect that those words will have on us. I know now her words never had a bearing on my outcome or situation, but I also learned that no one should have that much power over our spirits.
Hey, ice cold milk and an Oreo cookie, they forever go together.
Happy Monday to you and welcome to your 4 to 5. I'm Lauren Coleman here with Eric Chilton, Jalen Gilkey, and Chad Silver.
You know, I was trying to get something to happen. I think Jalen is against this. I wanted to start a new trend called Monday Fun Day.
Monday Fun Day. So what is that all about?
It's just about having fun and not looking at a Monday as like the worst day of the week.
Yeah.
But maybe just trying to, try to put a positive spin on it.
I can get down with that because Mondays are such a drag. So listen, I think we should do it. What's the issue, Jalen?
So first of all, I wasn't against it.
Yeah, you
I
was.
just said, when he said Monday Fun Day, I said no one ever. So there we go.
Well, you know what? We're all alive. We're healthy.
There you
We've
go.
got
Great
jobs. So Monday Fun Day.
Monday Fun
Absolutely.
Day.
It's
I'm
all up
for
here,
it.
Chad. All up here.
Absolutely. The big story we've been following for the past couple of days and will continue for this week, Eric Chilton, this storm that's coming through here.
Yeah, so it's really just a lot of rain for us. That's what we're watching closely. I mean, we're talking about heavy showers, and the heaviest rains really will be in the mountain and foothill communities. Does that mean that we won't see a lot here? No, absolutely it does not. We have a chance of getting really a good soaking rain. Over the next 2 or 3 days, we could see 1 to 2 inches in the Triad, even more if you head back toward the mountain and foothill communities. I do think that once you get to Wednesday, we'll start to see some breaks in that and it'll start to trail off. I think the end of the day, Wednesday will be in pretty good shape. Temperatures right now, though, in the mid 80s for us. We've got a few breaks in the clouds today. We were thinking some low 80s for highs, but since we had a couple of breaks in the clouds here or there, that allowed us to heat up. Now, that's actually not what you want because that helps to fuel thunderstorm activity and cause more lightning. It is moving in from the south, parts of southern Davidson and Randolph counties and Montgomery County seeing the heavier rains. This is Fred. Obviously, we're still watching this one as it gets closer to us, we're going to see these thunderstorm and rain chances hour by hour. We look at that chance really overnight and into tomorrow as well. Tuesday is the day that we could see more severe weather as this moves through. And really, again, this is more of just a chance of severe storms and a very low, but still a 5 to 10% chance of a tornado developing as the system moves by. Now, it stays well to our west. You see, this is Tuesday at 8 p.m. and then Wednesday morning at 8 a.m. It's moving to the north away from us, but this is what we're watching. The area you see highlighted in yellow, which is most of the Triad and then back to the mountain and foothill communities, that's a 5% chance of a tornado tomorrow in the evening hours. We'll be here and keep you posted.
Eric, thanks. Your best resource when weather is threatening is the News 2 app. We will send you alerts and give you a live look at radar in your area.
Let's get to your 4 to 5 roundup. President Biden addressed the nation for the first time since the Taliban takeover in Afghanistan. The president says he stands by his decision to withdraw U.S. troops and encourages diplomacy between Afghan troops and the Taliban. On Sunday, the Taliban took control of Kabul, the nation's capital, and U.S. troops have been working to secure the city's airport to evacuate Americans and Afghan allies. A U.S. military official said U.S. troops killed 2 armed Afghans, part of a crowd that breached the airport perimeter. At least 7 people have died in total. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says despite chaos, the Biden administration stands by the president's decision to withdraw troops. And the president has been at Camp David since Friday and received a briefing this morning by his national security team. Nearly 1,300 people are dead after a 7.2 magnitude earthquake hit Haiti over the weekend. Rescuers are racing to dig through rubble for survivors as Tropical Storm Grace approaches the island. Grace is expected to make landfall sometime tonight. At least 2,800 more people were injured, with thousands of others displaced from their homes, and they were destroyed. U.S. aid sent a search and rescue team from Virginia to assist, and Samaritan's Purse will airlift 13 disaster response specialists and 31 tons of emergency supplies to Haiti. The North Carolina Department of Health just approved booster shots for people with weakened immune systems in North Carolina. But booster shots are not underway just yet here in the Triad. Wake recipients can receive doses of the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine, and a third shot is not recommended for anyone who received the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. So far, Wake County Public Health has expanded its COVID vaccine locations to offer the third vaccine dose.
New at 4:30, Duke University will require masks for many athletic events this fall. Masks will be required in all indoor public spaces, no matter vaccination status or event. This is for anyone 5 or older. Accommodations will be offered for people with medical conditions. Masks will also be required on all transit services.
Making your bed, taking out the trash, okay, cleaning the table after dinner. These are all what?
Chores?
Chores.
Yeah. Kid chores too, right? Very often kids get an allowance for that kind of thing. All right, Chilton, put it in perspective for us. Do your kids get that?
No allowance, because a lot of that's expected, but if they do something that's not expected that's over and above, then we'll pay them for that type of thing. So not a weekly allowance at my house.
Okay, now how about you guys? Lauren, Chad, did you guys get paid for chores?
I didn't get an allowance, but my parents, they would give me, some money every now and then, but I didn't get a stable allowance or anything.
I was kind of the same way, never got an allowance, but if I wanted to get that brand new VHS tape that came out, the cassette tape, they would allow me to get it.
They would allow you to get it. Okay, so much allowance is given in cash. What do you think about putting that allowance on a debit card? It's 2021, people. Why not a debit card? Listen to this, Mom.
The earlier that children do learn about finances, the less mistakes they'll make when they do reach adulthood.
This mom got her 9-year-old a debit card that is specifically for kids and customizable by the parents. There are several cards on the market that allow kids to get rewards for chores or good grades. That money can be used to make purchases at approved stores, invest, and even donate to charity.
All the features are designed around helping kids learn how to budget, how to understand the differences between wants and needs.
10-year-old London Peterson has been using her debit card for a while. She says it's taught her to save.
I usually tell my friends that I was saving for this or that I was gonna go here and buy that because I had saved up for it.
All right, so one more note on the debit cards for kids. They usually charge $4 to $5 depending on the plan a month. So know that. But what do you think about the debit card, friends?
I think it's a great idea. Why not start early, learning certain responsibilities, and it's easier for them to keep track of the money that they have. So I'm all for it. If I had a kid, I would look into it.
Yeah, my parents gave me a checking account when I was 12, and they said that it taught me how to balance a checkbook, and old school way. And so that taught me a little bit about that, and then I got a debit card when I was a little bit older. But yeah, I mean, to me, you got to start young and teach them because that stays with them into adulthood.
Right.
I agree. I support the idea too, and I think sometimes you as a kid, you might feel cool if you have a debit card,
right.
and you might, I would think that it's a lot.
Look at my card.
So while as an adult, it's easier to spend money on a credit card than it is cash, but I would think for the kids, it might be easier to spend the cash
Chad,
over the debit card.
I had a wallet with one card.
Wallet with one
A
card.
little debit card. I thought I was really cool.
So I will say this, getting your kid a credit card in their name, it's not as crazy as it sounds. It helps them build credit. You can get a credit card with a low limit so they're not breaking the bank in case they charge more than they can handle. We'll finish this discussion online, shall we?
Yes.
We'll be right back. Oh, no doubt kids love snow days. It's one of those magical moments, especially if there's enough to play in. But after more than a year in the pandemic and remote learning, some have wondered whether snow days are now a thing of the past. Our Verify team takes a closer look at school district options.
Putting on your PJs backwards and hoping for snow may be a thing of the past. With more virtual options for students, a lot of parents have been asking, will their child have virtual learning days instead of the typical snow day? Let's verify. We went straight to the local school districts in both North and South Carolina to get you answers. All the local South Carolina school districts tell us they have the option to go virtual on bad weather days because they are called e-learning schools. This is a program that started before the pandemic and will carry on. Meanwhile, in North Carolina, it's still uncertain what will happen. Many of the school districts we spoke with say they plan on sending Chromebooks or similar devices home with students again this year. Because of this technology, they hope to transition bad weather days into e-learning days. Districts tell us this would be significant for school districts in the mountains where 15 to 20 snow days a year can have an impact on what kids learn. According to districts, these remote learning days can also eliminate the need for makeup days on Saturday during spring break or at the end of the school year. However, they tell us despite the progress, some North Carolina families still don't have access to high-speed internet, and that could create a problem for those students. So we can verify that, yes, COVID-19 has changed what a typical snow day will look like.
We reached out to Triad districts for their plans. Some of them have responded to us. Guilford County says it's focused on getting students back in class now and will reveal snow plans when the time comes. Rockingham expects to have traditional snow days. Stokes and Winston-Salem-Forsyth say they will make plans on a case-by-case basis. Yadkin says it'll still plan to have snow days, but if students miss several days, there's the possibility of giving laptops for virtual days. We'll be right back.
Well, it's exciting to get back to the movies now. It gives us a sense of normalcy in the pandemic world. Before you grab that popcorn and candy, though, for date night, let's let WFNY News 2 photojournalist Manning Franks review Disney's Jungle Cruise for you.
Remember Pirates of the Caribbean? A fun, action-packed adventure with memorable characters, an all-timer score, and an exciting world? Yeah, Jungle Cruise isn't that. But it tries desperately to be.
I believe that the legend is real.
Which it's not.
And I'm gonna find it.
Which you won't.
And when I do, just imagine the lives that could be saved.
Based off of the ride at the Disney parks, similar to the aforementioned Pirates movie, Jungle Cruise stars Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt as two explorers on a quest to find a mythical tree that is said to hold incredible power to heal any ailment. Amidst the backdrop of World War I, they must team up to travel down the Amazon River in order to find this ancient power. However, they aren't the only ones. The jungle always has other plans. Jungle Cruise is that light summer fare that gives us just as much depth as the local kiddie pool. Now, that in of itself isn't a bad thing, but if you have a weak story and paper-thin characters, it would make logical sense to provide epic spectacle for our promised trip down the Amazon, right? This movie elicited a chorus of whats and huh as it makes its way from one action set piece to another in traditional adventure fashion, yet somehow lacking any of the thrills either visually or narratively. At its core, Jungle Cruise's greatest flaw is that it's if a committee threw out ideas and hoped they would stick. Jungle Cruise wants to be a fun popcorn adventure, and maybe that does work for you. If anything, this is a movie to see for the whole family. However, for me, not even the great charisma of Dwayne Johnson and Emily Blunt can save this artificial magic. I'm going to give Jungle Cruise a for you to decide. If you're interested in a possible summer escape to the Amazon, or the next best thing anyway, Jungle Cruise is in theaters and on Premiere Access on Disney+.
Is it sad that I had no idea what that movie was, that even existed?
Exactly. I was saying I'm glad that Manning is doing these reviews because
Right.
it's keeping me up to date on what's in theaters, because I've been a little hesitant to come back, but if he keeps these coming, I might actually go see a movie soon.
I love that Manning is, and you guys know this because we all know each other personally, but Manning is so nice that he can't give it a low rating. He has to say, you decide.
You decide,
instead
but
of
you know
giving
what
it
he
like
wanted
1
to
star.
say.
Right.
So you've heard of that movie?
Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I mean, it's a typical kid. He's right. It's a kids and family movie that if you have Disney Plus, then they advertise it. You know that's coming out. It's a big deal.
That's cool. My problem is I don't go to the movie theater because I just get all of the snacks and I eat them all and I get a stomach ache and then I'm at the movie theater and it's just not good. So I don't even go to the movies. I just wait for it to come out on Netflix or Hulu or something like that.
What's your favorite movie snack?
So I have to get the popcorn with
Okay.
extra butter on
Yes,
top.
yes.
And then I also love if like, they have like Reese's Pieces. I
Mhm.
enjoy that. I also have to get like the Slurpee.
Yes. You know what? You should get the kids pack because it comes with the Slurpee, the popcorn, and a candy. That's what I do.
I'm telling you, that's the reason that I don't go because I don't want to get all the stuff.
I eat so much of the popcorn. I'm like you, Chad. I actually feel sick that I eat so much. of that.
Right. I know. Yeah. So
Can't help it.
I'll wait for it to come out. Eric Chilton, weather's coming out today too, isn't it?
Yeah, let's talk about that. Rain, showers moving through the area, and we have to get used to it. Keep an umbrella handy, that's for sure. You will need that through the next 24 to maybe even 36 hours, which is about a day and a half, right? And we think I'm hoping by Wednesday morning and even midday, we'll start to dry out a little bit, but we got some rain ahead of us. We're in the mid to upper 80s right now. It really depends on who's seeing the rain and who is not. You can see southern Piedmont, Asheboro 73, but it jumps up 12 degrees to 85 in Greensboro, just a short trip up 220, and that's because that's where we're seeing the rain. Here's what it looks like on the radar. Parts of Randolph and Davidson County seeing heavier rains right now. There are lightning strikes embedded in this, some thunderstorm activity, so just be advised that you could see that. It is kind of an extension. I mean, it's a stationary front, but you see Fred down here too, so it's just a long line of showers as this system gets closer to us. Let's take a look and see how this is going to move along as that system heads back up to the north and to the east. You can see it as just a low pressure center. So for us, it's really just a rain event, with most of the rain being in the western half of our state. And we could see 1 to 2 inches of rain across the area as a result. Here's your 7-day forecast. It's a 70% chance of rain that could be heavy at times tomorrow, a high of 81. Then Wednesday, it starts to taper down a little bit, 84 degrees. Now we're back to that normal 30% late day pop-up variety for Thursday through Monday. So mid-80s Wednesday, Thursday. We'll hover around 87 to 88, which is dead on normal for us. That's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday.
Okay. The first weekend of the new Guilford County mask mandate in the books.
Hello, mic check 1, 2, 3. We're talking about Fred.
Hi there, Oklahoma, Oregon, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, South Carolina, South Dakota.
Spectacular, it was worse. Like things with COVID, some things went well, others not so much.
Mic check 1, 2, 3. Mic check 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Two, three, 4, 5, 6. Here I am.
It's time for my 2 cents. Summer vacation for many Triad students is coming to an end. That means it's back to homework assignments and early starts to the day. It's a good idea for families to get back into a school routine too. I remember when I was in school, my mother would treat the week before the first day just like the actual school year. Here are some big takeaways. Students need plenty of rest to perform at their best, especially the youngsters. Creating an early morning bedtime schedule now will help students get enough sleep before the first day of school. This will also help to limit the morning battle of getting kids out of bed. At night, instead of winding down with TV shows and video games, try to get your children to read a book or do a puzzle. The time usually spent watching TV shows during the summer will now be replaced with homework assignments. Last, talk to your kids about the upcoming year. Help relieve their mind of any worries they may have. The coronavirus pandemic created many challenges during the last school year, from virtual learning to wearing masks in schools. Students certainly face the unexpected. It's important for parents to check in with their kids and continue to provide emotional support so they can have their best year yet. That's my 2 cents. That's your 4 to 5. WFMY News 2 at 5 starts now. The first weekend of the new Guilford County mask mandate is now in the books.
And like so many other COVID changes, some things went well, others not so much. WFMY News 2's Jinda Kursina checked in with businesses to see how it's going.